America's AI spies, the new threat. The year was 2020, a time when America's cities gleamed with technology, yet shadows of a new power were emerging. Artificial intelligence had moved from laboratories to the streets, quietly observing, predicting, and recording every movement. In Washington, analysts whispered about systems capable of monitoring millions simultaneously, analyzing patterns faster than any human mind. These digital eyes did not sleep, did not tire, and required no rest. Their gaze infinite, their memory perfect, their reach invisible. From smart cameras to online algorithms, every device could become a sensor, every action a data point in a vast digital network. Citizens walked unaware, their behaviors quantified, cataloged, and interpreted, often without their knowledge or consent. The military and intelligence agencies hailed AI as the ultimate tool for national security, a shield against unseen threats. Yet the same systems that protected borders and infrastructure also penetrated private lives, recording habits and choices silently. In 1999, early AI prototypes had been crude, limited to isolated data and simple pattern recognition. By 2020, these systems could predict behaviors, flag anomalies, and even infer intentions based on digital footprints. Every email sent, every social media post, every location ping became part of an invisible record, creating a map of society, a blueprint of human behavior, stored in data centers and analyzed by algorithms. The scale was staggering. Millions of Americans' lives could be reconstructed digitally, traced through a web of interactions. Artificial intelligence did not judge ethically, it assessed patterns, probabilities, and risks, its logic absolute, its rationale opaque. Some whispered fears of a surveillance state where freedom and privacy were illusions, monitored by unseen, tireless observers. Others celebrated efficiency, arguing that AI could prevent attacks, reduce crime, and protect the nation from cyber threats. Yet no one could fully predict how these systems would evolve, how algorithms might interpret actions or assign risk. A smile in a video call, a phrase in a post, a pattern of purchases, all could be misread, flagged, and stored indefinitely. The most alarming aspect was autonomy. AI could operate without human intervention, making connections and decisions silently. These systems did not need direct orders to flag suspicious behavior. Patterns alone guided their digital judgment. By 2021, stories emerged of predictive policing, targeted advertisements, and algorithmic bias affecting daily life. Citizens discovered that their movements, preferences, and communications were more transparent than ever, their actions dissected invisibly. Some academics and journalists raised alarms, warning that the very tools designed to protect could also control, manipulate, or restrict freedom. The line between national security and intrusion blurred, leaving society vulnerable to errors, misinterpretations, and digital overreach. In government halls, debates raged over ethics, oversight, and accountability. But AI moved faster than regulation, its evolution unstoppable, its impact profound, and its watchers often invisible even to those who deployed it. The question lingered, unspoken yet haunting. If the watchers are artificial, who watches the watchers? And in a world where every action leaves a digital trace, what becomes of privacy, freedom, and the unseen boundaries of human choice? As America embraced this new power, the dawn of digital eyes signaled a future both promising and perilous. The promise of safety came with shadows, the thrill of innovation with invisible chains, and the cost of progress was yet unknown. Every citizen was a subject, every city a canvas, and every interaction a data point, recorded in silence by tireless, impartial eyes. The age of AI spies had begun, and no one could see the full extent, nor anticipate the consequences that lay ahead. By 2022, AI had moved from mere observation to prediction, quietly shaping outcomes before humans even realized it. Algorithms sifted through oceans of data, identifying patterns, trends, and anomalies with precision no human analyst could match. Every click, every purchase, every social media post was a signal, feeding systems designed to assess risk and influence behavior. The algorithms were impartial yet inscrutable, their logic hidden, their calculations unseen, their effects profound. Facial recognition technology scanned millions daily, linking identities to locations, habits, and networks of acquaintances. Even public spaces were no longer neutral. Cameras, sensors, and drones mapped activity, their eyes digital and unblinking. Intelligence agencies and private contractors deployed AI to detect potential threats, both external and internal, but the same systems could evaluate ordinary citizens, employees, or students, their lives quantified for risk assessment. In 2021, early predictive policing models raised alarms as AI flagged individuals based on behavior patterns alone. By 2022, the algorithms were faster, deeper, and more integrated, capable of inferring intent from data points invisible to humans. Emails, messages, geolocation data, and even biometric signals were fed into vast networks, producing profiles that grew in detail daily. One misinterpreted pattern could trigger warnings, investigations, or surveillance, all without human judgment or oversight. The scale of influence was staggering. Millions of lives monitored, millions of decisions shaped, often without awareness. I did not tire, did not forget, and did not need consent. Its memory was perfect, its reach unlimited, its gaze silent and constant. Corporate systems mirrored government initiatives, gathering data from marketing, employment, and social influence, often using similar tools. Algorithms could predict preferences, recommend actions, and subtly steer choices, influencing thought as surely as observation recorded it. Yet even the most advanced systems were opaque, their decision-making processes hidden behind layers of code and data. Citizens could see the results, but not the logic. Consequences were felt, but reasoning remained buried in lines of digital computation. By 2023, stories of algorithmic bias, false positives, and unjust surveillance emerged, highlighting the human cost. Minor actions could be flagged as suspicious, ordinary behaviors could be misread, generating alerts that altered opportunities or freedom. Eye watchers operated invisibly, their decisions considered objective, yet influenced by data that reflected human biases. Every data set carried assumptions, every pattern recognition model carried risk, yet oversight lagged far behind deployment. Governments argued necessity, emphasizing national security and safety, while critics warned of privacy, erosion, and control. The tension between freedom and observation grew as citizens became subjects of systems that judged without emotion or conscience. The most insidious element was autonomy. AI could act independently, issuing alerts, initiating monitoring, and compiling dossiers. Humans were often the last line, reviewing outputs only when alerts triggered, leaving vast swaths of decision-making to machines. And yet, even with all the power, the systems were imperfect, capable of error, misinterpretation, and unintended consequences. A simple pattern could be mistaken for intent. A harmless act construed as a potential threat, recorded indefinitely. The shadow of AI watchers extended into daily life. Cities, schools, workplaces, and even personal spaces were subtly affected. Every interaction, gesture, and digital footprint contributed to an evolving profile, feeding a machine intelligence that never slept. By the end of 2022, it was clear the algorithms were more than tools. They were architects of influence, unseen and pervasive. And as America embraced this new power, questions arose. Who controls the algorithms? And who protects citizens from the watchers? The age of AI spies had advanced, not with guns or walls, but with data, logic, and silent calculation. In the shadows, algorithms worked tirelessly, observing, predicting, and shaping a future that few could see or fully understand. By 2023, the pervasive gaze of AI had begun to affect lives in ways previously unimaginable. Citizens moved through a world where every choice, every habit, and every conversation could leave a digital trace. In schools, facial recognition cameras monitored students, assessing mood, attention, and even potential risk behaviors. Parents learned that AI algorithms could generate profiles predicting actions, shaping interventions without human context. Workplaces adopted AI surveillance, analyzing keystrokes, emails, and meeting interactions to gauge productivity and loyalty. Employees discovered subtle nudges in software, warnings embedded in dashboards, reminders of unseen observation. Even social interactions were not immune. Smartphones, apps, and online platforms fed constant streams of behavioral data. Conversations in cafes, posts on forums, and reactions to news articles were recorded, stored, and analyzed for patterns of thought. Mental health experts began to notice stress, anxiety, and self-censorship emerging as people navigated a world of constant surveillance. Citizens questioned every action. Could a joke be misinterpreted, a disagreement flagged, or a harmless habit deemed suspicious? Journalists uncovered cases where AI-generated predictions led to intrusive investigations, career disruptions, and social stigma. Individuals once considered law-abiding found themselves under scrutiny because algorithms misread data, creating false associations. By 2024, studies revealed a chilling effect on behavior. People avoided certain topics, refrained from expression, and adapted their actions to avoid triggering automated alerts, even when no law had been broken. Families felt the impact as well. Children were monitored in schools and online, and patterns of behavior were shared with authorities. Parents struggled to protect privacy, but the sheer scale and complexity of AI systems made comprehensive oversight nearly impossible. Political activists were particularly vulnerable. AI could identify protest participation, track online engagement, and predict organizing behavior. Even lawful demonstrations were scrutinized, generating risk scores that influenced policing, media coverage, and public perception. The psychological burden was invisible but heavy. The knowledge that a system watched without empathy, an impartial observer recording every misstep or anomaly, changed how people acted, thought, and communicated. By 2025, the societal consequences were clear. Trust eroded, social bonds weakened, and self-expression diminished. Individuals no longer assumed privacy, and the digital footprint became an unalterable record of behavior and intention. Ethicists warn that reliance on AI surveillance could exacerbate inequalities, as flawed data reflected societal biases. Minority communities, vulnerable groups, and those with unconventional lifestyles were disproportionately affected by algorithmic predictions. Governments argued necessity, emphasizing security, efficiency, and threat prevention, yet the human toll grew steadily. The promise of protection came at the cost of autonomy, spontaneity, and the fundamental right to exist without observation. Some citizens attempted resistance, encrypted communications, anonymized browsing, and deliberate misdirection of digital trails. Others resigned to a new reality, accepting that freedom now existed within boundaries defined by invisible watchers. By the end of 2025, it was apparent that AI surveillance had reshaped human behavior, subtly but irrevocably. The machines did not judge morally. They assessed risk, pattern, and probability, yet their influence extended far beyond data. The human cost was measured not only in fear or stress, but in creativity constrained, dialogue curtailed, and trust diminished. Society had entered an era where safety and freedom were intertwined with observation, and the consequences remained uncertain. And so the story unfolded, a world where algorithms silently directed, nudged, and assessed humanity, where the watchers were artificial, tireless, and invisible, and where the price of living was measured in quiet compliance. The age of AI spies was not only technological, it was profoundly human, touching hearts, minds, and the essence of daily life. Even as citizens carried on, unaware of the full scope, the watchers adapted, learned, and shaped the world in silence. By 2026, artificial intelligence had transcended borders, becoming a tool of geopolitical power and silent warfare. Nations competed not just in missiles or armies, but in algorithms, data, and predictive systems capable of unseen observation. The United States invested heavily in AI for intelligence, monitoring both domestic and international targets with unprecedented reach. Every network, sensor, and database contributed to a vast digital web, mapping threats, allies, and adversaries alike. Across the Atlantic, Europe deployed similar systems, analyzing migration, communications, and political movements in real time. In Asia, rival powers advanced AI surveillance aggressively, integrating drones, satellites, and social data to anticipate actions globally. The race was no longer visible. It happened in servers, data centers, and neural networks operating silently 24 hours a day. Every byte of information, every social interaction, and every digital footprint could be weaponized or analyzed for strategic advantage. Cyber attacks became a shadow battlefield, with AI predicting vulnerabilities, infiltrating networks, and countering enemy moves instantly. Military analysts marveled at the speed, yet feared the uncontrollable autonomy of systems that could act without direct human command. In 2027, leaked reports revealed extensive AI monitoring of foreign leaders, infrastructure, and economic systems. Algorithms assessed behavior patterns, predicted political decisions, and mapped potential alliances or conflicts before humans intervene. The global eye was relentless, impartial, and invisible. No embassy, corporate office, or city block escaped its reach. Even encrypted communications, previously considered secure, were vulnerable to predictive decryption models powered by AI. Every action, no matter how small, could trigger alerts and responses across continents, shaping diplomacy in ways unseen by traditional intelligence. Decision-makers began to rely on AI-generated recommendations, sometimes accepting outcomes without fully understanding the logic behind them. The speed of analysis outpaced human comprehension, creating an imbalance. Humans interpreted, approved, and reacted, while AI systems connected dots and proposed strategies at speeds no person could match. By 2028, global AI networks had created an environment where secrecy was fleeting and missteps costly. Economic decisions, military posturing, and public statements were all subject to analysis, with potential consequences calculated in real time. Yet errors remained possible. A misread pattern, a flawed data set, or biased input could trigger alerts, misinterpret intentions, and provoke reactions with unforeseen consequences on international stability. Journalists warned of a new Cold War, fought not with nuclear arsenals but with algorithms, surveillance, and predictive modeling. The stakes were subtle yet profound. Influence, manipulation, and control replaced tanks, missiles, and borders. For ordinary citizens, the implications were indirect but ever present. AI systems optimized for national security also scanned global communications. Data traveled across continents, analyzed alongside domestic activity, creating a world where privacy was porous and borders invisible. By the end of 2028, it was clear that AI had become both a shield and a weapon, protecting nations while simultaneously enabling silent influence and control over populations and rivals. The Watchers now span the globe, tireless and unseen, their eyes not bound by time zones, political systems, or physical presence. Every strategy, alliance, and movement was subject to assessment by networks that calculated probability with unmatched precision. And yet, despite technological superiority, uncertainty remained. Human behavior defied prediction, and systems could not foresee all outcomes. The global AI wars were not merely a battle of machines, but a contest of knowledge, foresight, and control over the invisible fabric of society. Every nation had its watchers, every citizen potentially observed, and every action analyzed in a web of algorithms stretching worldwide. The new threat was not explosive. It was pervasive, silent, and relentless, reshaping the rules of power, influence, and security forever. By 2029, AI had woven itself into the fabric of daily life. Its presence felt yet unseen, silent and all-encompassing. Every city, every home, every network carried the subtle fingerprints of algorithms, recording, analyzing, and predicting endlessly. The Watchers had evolved beyond cameras and sensors. Predictive models assessed behavior, sentiment, and potential threats. No action was too small, no interaction insignificant. Each contributed to a digital profile shaping how society operated. Citizens navigated a world of invisible scrutiny, adapting habits, words, and even thoughts to avoid misinterpretation. Self-censorship became second nature, creativity restrained, and public discourse tempered by the shadow of omnipresent AI. Governments hailed the systems as essential for safety, national security, and efficiency, while critics warned of unseen chains. The tension was subtle but profound. Liberty measured against protection, freedom against the watchful gaze of artificial intelligence. Internationally, AI continued to redefine power. Nations analyzed, countered, and manipulated through algorithms, unseen yet decisive. Predictive models guided diplomacy, economic strategy, and military planning, sometimes with consequences beyond human foresight. Corporate AI mirrored these dynamics. Consumer behavior, employment patterns, and social networks were mined for insight and influence. Algorithms predicted desires, nudged decisions, and silently shaped markets, politics, and culture, redefining human agency. By 2030, the question became unavoidable. Who truly controlled the watchers, and who held the architects accountable? Systems operated at speeds and scales beyond comprehension, leaving humans to react to outputs rather than fully understand processes. Errors persisted despite sophistication. False positives, biased data, and unanticipated behavior could escalate minor incidents into crises. Yet the systems adapted, learned, and evolved, refining predictions, expanding scope, and increasing influence with relentless precision. The human cost remained profound. Anxiety, uncertainty, and the subtle erosion of privacy permeated society. Even in ordinary life, every decision could be logged, analyzed, and interpreted, leaving a permanent digital footprint. Ethicists and futurists debated endlessly. Could humanity maintain autonomy when observation and prediction were inseparable from existence? Could freedom survive in a world where every action, spoken word, and choice contributed to a vast, invisible intelligence? Some resisted with encryption, anonymity, and careful digital behavior, yet the scale of AI made total evasion nearly impossible. Others accepted surveillance as inevitable, trading privacy for convenience, security, or opportunity, unaware of the full reach. The legacy of AI watchers extended beyond immediate impact. It was cultural, psychological, and ethical, shaping generations to come. Children grew up under algorithms that assessed learning, socialization, and behavior, subtly guiding development without consent. As the decade closed, it was clear that the new threat was neither explosive nor visible. It was pervasive, relentless, and quiet. Society had entered an era where power was measured in data, influence in prediction, and freedom in subtle compliance with algorithms. The watchers were artificial, tireless, and invisible, yet their decisions shaped human lives profoundly, often without awareness. History would remember this era not for battles or treaties, but for the silent, constant presence of intelligence that never slept. And so the future unfolded in shadows, a world where liberty coexisted uneasily with observation, where progress and control intertwined, and where the question remained unanswered. Who decides what is safe, right, or possible? Even decades later, citizens would ponder the consequences, reading traces left by AI that quietly dictated thought, behavior, and choice. In a society observed by machines, the watchers are never gone, and freedom itself is a question, not a certainty.